were you born?
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, I think in a hospital, in July of 1920.
Yeah. What hospital?
Approximately 72 years ago.
Right.
In Mount Sinai Hospital. In my childhood, I don't remember, except I remember my grandfather. He had a big red beard.
He had a red beard?
Big red beard.
Your maternal grandfather.
Yeah, my maternal grandfather.
Yeah, specify.
Yeah, my maternal grandfather. And his name was Julius, and I was named after him.
Oh, you were named after your maternal grandfather?
But he died when I was very young.
How old were you when he
both
died?
Maybe 4 or 5.
What did he die of?
I don't remember. They didn't know then what people died of anyway.
Uh-huh.
They were dead and they buried them.
Yeah. These were your maternal grandparents?
These are my maternal grandparents. But I remember him. I don't remember my grandmother.
What do you
And
remember?
we lived in a section of Cleveland that the whole family lived there. Like we lived downstairs and somebody lived upstairs for my family, and there was a house in back of us too.
Yeah.
That was occupied by my aunts and uncles.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was very closely knit, and families were always close together.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember in my youth very vividly is that I wanted my tonsils out.
What?
Because I was scared. I remember they didn't have pre-op rooms where they put you in. They put me in a room on an operating table, and all that was there were bags of sugar, I think. They did that to you before they took you in for surgery.
You remember having your tonsils out?
Yeah, that's the only thing I really vividly remember when I was young. I must have been traumatized.
How young were you when
And
you
ever
had
since
your
then,
tonsils
I
out?
have absolutely no use for doctors. I don't trust any of them, and I don't believe in them.
How old were you when you had your tonsils out?
5 or 6.
Uh-huh. Did you live in where were you living at
We
the time?
moved quite frequently.
Why?
Because this was the height of the Depression, and when you couldn't pay the rent, you moved.
Yeah.
And I think the rent maybe was $35 a month. But at that time, you didn't make $35 a week.
Uh-huh.
So we kept moving, and I went to 4 elementary schools. Because we moved. We live in a place a year, and then we move.
Uh-huh.
We live in a place another year, and then you changed elementary school.
What kind of work?
Finally, I got through elementary school.
What kind of
But I
work?
remember very vividly, the last one I went to, my folks didn't want to change me anymore, and I had to walk to school, which was in Yahubitsville.
You went to Miles
Standish,
Standish.
and I lived right opposite the high school that I went to, and I had to walk all that.
How far did you have to walk?
Long way. Must have been a couple of miles, because I had to keep the same address. And I remember also that I couldn't come home for lunch because there wasn't enough time. I couldn't walk home.
Oh my God. Didn't that house have a porch, a long
Oh,
porch,
yeah,
and your
sure.
father used to sit out there?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, he used to
Then
read
we
a lot.
moved into my uncle's place in Cleveland, and there also,
What time did they go
because
to
we didn't have
church
money to
down
pay
there?
it was a duplex.
Jim?
And at that time, it was going in just before the crash. And he had a lot of property, and all the property was occupied by his brothers and sisters. And nobody paid him rent because he didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And eventually, he lost
All
all.
the property, yeah.
It was my Uncle Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And he was sort of my mentor. I had a lot of
Do you
respect for him. He was a
remember
fine man.
when your mother got a mangling iron?
Oh, I remember the mangle, sure.
Who gave it to her? You children got together and bought it for her? She was so proud of, she called my mother and we had to go over
See the
the
mangle?
mangling
Yeah.
iron.
That's right. You had a washing machine with a tub,
Yeah.
and you used to put it through a wringer.
Ringer, yeah, but
It
then
was a
she
hand
ironed.
operated. Then we got a sort of affluent,
Yeah,
and
you
we
got
had a
iron.
ringer with electricity attached to it, so you didn't have to run it by hand.
What did your
But
dad
this
do
was
for a
the
living?
iron, you know, the
Yeah,
iron. Was
that's right.
it went
They still
down.
use them. They
Yeah.
still use them
Still
in
use 'em.
laundry.
Yeah, I just wondered if she was so proud of that.
What'd your dad do for a living?
My father was a rock boss. He was a man that took orders for a beverage company.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think he worked for them for over 20 years, and we received, when he got to his latter years, He couldn't lift cases anymore and do things like that. He worked 7 days a week.
I know.
Go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning and get home at 7, 8 o'clock at night.
They paid you nothing.
They paid him nothing because he wasn't a union member.
Yeah.
And then what else happened in my youth?
Where'd you go to high school?
Then we moved from my uncle's place because my brother got married. And
How many
he was
brothers and
making-
sisters did you have?
I had, what do you mean, how many brothers? You know how many I had, what are you asking me for? And my brother got married and was making $16 a week working for the Cleveland News.
Yes,
Huh? He worked on the business section. He did stock market reports.
yeah.
And my brother was a very brilliant guy, really was.
Yeah.
Valedictorian of his class.
That's
And he had polio when he was very young, and it left him paralyzed completely on the right side, and he wore a big brace till the day he died. Right. Anyway, he got married, and they moved upstairs. We lived in a duplex.
How old was he when he got married?
22, 23.
18.
No,
Your brother was very young.
well, anyway, they lived upstairs, and Marge worked. That was my sister-in-law.
She was a
She
wonderful
worked-
pianist.
Accomplished pianist, and she worked as a dress salesman. And between the
Yeah,
two of them, I
she
think
did.
their combined income was $25 a week.
Oh, God, isn't that good?
And we survived, honestly.
Yeah,
And
I
then
know.
she had the baby, and my mother took care of Rick. She went back to work. And then eventually my brother got her.
Then
Because
it
he started,
started to get better.
yeah, it started, he was taken off the financial page. He was made one of the editors of the paper.
Yeah.
But he was brilliant.
So what happened when you graduated from high school?
Went to high school,
Yeah,
and I was fairly bright.
Yeah.
Math and science.
yeah,
And the thing that I remember, I took chemistry.
yeah.
And I got a B in chemistry,
Come here, Betty, you folk.
and I went to the principal of the school and told him I want to repeat chemistry,
Why?
because I didn't learn anything, and I knew I didn't learn anything. And I had a professor that was, I think I knew more than the professor.
You didn't
So I
learn it?
repeated chemistry after I got a B in it.
You're kidding.
In math, I was good, everything I took. Trigonometry, calculus,
That's great. That's such a hard subject.
and then I graduated, I couldn't find a job.
From high school?
And I remember then,
You didn't go
I'll
straight to
never forgive
college?
the guy, he ran Meisel Tire, which was an outfit in Cleveland, they had 3 stores, and I went to him and I pleaded for a job, so I had to work.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to school and everything, and he wouldn't give me a job, and I never forgave him. I told him, I'll sweep the store, I'll do anything, just give me something to do so I make a few dollars. And I had a combination of 3 jobs. I worked in a shoe packing factory. Harold Abel's uncle gave me the job. I'd work there from 8 in the morning till noon, packing shoes for shipment. Then I'd go from there, this was all on a bus, I didn't have an auto.
Yes, right.
I'd go to work in a drugstore, and I'd wash dishes, and pretty soon I was running the grill. And then I'd work there till 6 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock I would go next door to the grocery store and work there for 3 hours, because they wanted a man around the place to help close.
Yeah.
Never forget.
Yeah, that's really.
The 3 jobs gave me a total earning of $11 a week.
See, they could never understand.
So how long did you work before you went to college?
Well, then I worked for, as I graduated in February, I had midterm, I worked until school started. And then my father gave me my tuition, which was an insurance policy. They paid a quarter on a week. And the guy used to come every week and collect the debit and mark it in a little book. And then he'd come at lunchtime, so my mother
Yeah,
would feed him.
yeah.
We always had lunch ready for him, a sandwich and a bowl of soup.
She paid-
Quarter a week, and
she had to pay
accumulated, they must have been paying on it all my life, and they gave me $375 and said, go to college. That was it.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Western Reserve, I got into pharmacy school.
Why'd you decide to go to Western Reserve?
Because it was in Cleveland, where was I gonna go?
Weren't there any other
$375, where was I gonna go to school?
Yeah, so did you live at home during college?
Sure I did. Answer the phone. How'd you get that phone fixed?
Yeah, that's real silly.
Or change the test pattern or the landing pattern?
So you go to college, then
Go
what?
to college. Went there 1 year, 26 kids in the class. With my background in chemistry, I left them all on my team. In the first year, they awarded me a scholarship.
Really?
Full
That was
scholarship.
beautiful.
Oh, sure.
That was
So I didn't have to worry about
yeah,
money anymore.
sure. That was great.
Yeah. I went to school, and then my third year, war was declared.
Your third year of college? So what
I had-
happened?
I had enlisted in the Army.
Yeah, did you volunteer, did you get a,
Oh, 181561156. I still remember my Army number. And we begin with 1, that means you're a volunteer. And I graduated in February because they accelerated everything. We went to school in the summertime.
How come you
And I graduated in February 14th and 15th, I was in the Army. Never took the boards, never took any.
You didn't go overseas or anything?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, just 4 years.
You were?
Oh,
Where
sure.
were you?
In England.
Oh, all the time?
Yeah.
so you got enrolled in the Army?
I enlisted, Jimmy. You don't enroll in the Army, Dodo.
So you enlisted in the Army, then what happened?
Right. And at that time, everybody was going in. So they shipped me to Columbus, Ohio, and that was the first time I've ever been on a train in my life. I went from Cleveland to Columbus, and I was wearing civilian clothes. And the first day they got there, they said, we're trying to separate men into their education. Everybody that had a college education raise your hand. So I figured, gee, you know, give me some. We were all, about 15 or 20 of us raised their hands. We'd been college kids.
Yeah.
They says, you guys are on KP right away. From that day on, I never volunteered for anything in the Army.
So what happened after that?
Somebody should have told you
They
first.
shipped us to, where'd we go? We went to Little Rock, Arkansas,
Oh, is that what?
Clinton's home state, in basic training for 6 weeks.
Did you know Betty at that time?
I met Betty, your mother, because I used to take the streetcar to work when my car wouldn't work.
Was this during college?
No, that's right.
White's Fruit Farm.
The pharmacy school had a graduation party.
I thought you went to undergraduate, then pharmacy school.
No, we didn't go. We went right into pharmacy school.
From high school?
Right. As long as you had the science background, you didn't have to do any undergraduate work. And I had all the science and math. Where was I? We were White's Fruit Farm. They gave a party. I'll never forget it. And a friend of mine, I didn't have a date because I was working. I came in
And went to
for
a
work, wedding or something. And I came later, and this guy who is now dead, and was one of the biggest jerks in my class, was with Betty. No reflection on the type of boy that she went with.
Did you hear that, Betty?
So you met Mother. When did you meet Mother? What year was that?
1942.
Yeah.
And, got along fine.
And then,
Wait.
Man.
That's it.
You're not in the picture. You got to sit down.
alright, and then sit down again.
No.
And then I got on the streetcar to go to school. I also went to Western Reserve University. And Pete got on, and I said hello. And he got off. He said, goodbye, I'm going to the Army. So I wrote to my friend Dorothy Levin, who was married and living in New York. Wrote her, I said, gee, I met a fella I really could go for, and my luck, he's
You
going
had
to
two
the Army.
say hello and goodbye to him?
Yeah.
That was
Very
the entire
stimulating.
conversation?
Entire
She's
conversation.
making up for it now.
But meanwhile, I'd written a column, a summer column with Dorothy and another girl, in a paper that Pete's brother wrote for, the Cleveland News.
Cleveland News, that's
So
it.
he read it, so he recognized my.
What'd you say? What'd you do?
Wrote a column,
She wrote a column in the
Oh.
Cleveland newspaper,
Called
the
Well-
same paper that my brother worked on.
Yeah.
just for a few weeks in the summer, called Well, Vacation's Nearly Over. And he had read it, so I was kind of flattered that he recognized.
I read it?
You said
No.
you did, you knew my good my good.
Oh, yeah, well, sure. There were 3 girls.
So then he wrote to me a postcard, and I wrote him back
You
Where was
met
it?
him once?
twice.
I thought you met him on the bus.
No,
I
on
was
the
at White's
party.
Fruit Farm
Right.
after I had gone to this affair at Alpine Village. And then we all went to White's Fruit Farm. They had Loganberry juice. I met him there, and then I met him on the bus, or streetcar, and then he began to write to me, and then he came home on a furlough, and we had a big fight. I don't know about what.
Do you don't remember what you fought about?
We've had several since.
Then we made up. That was good, the making up.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Did Did you make up right away?
Sure. And then I wrote him, and he wrote me, and I wrote him. And he
Yeah.
went over, and it was Dear Betty, and then Dearest Betty, and then Dearest
What a
Betty.
fool.
And then at the end, X's for the kisses.
Yeah.
But in those days, if I kissed him once before before the correspondence, it was a lot.
So what happened
Your
after
mother
that?
was just playing hard to get.
So what happened after that?
He came home from the